welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing well. Today I wanted to do a chatty paint with me while I talk about some things that I've learned so far in my creative journey, specifically how things are different that I've found in pursuing a creative path versus like a traditional 9 to 5 or an office job, which is my background and where I came from. So I wanted to share those, and hopefully they can help you if you're also trying to figure out your creative journey or grow your creative self. This is what I'm going to be painting today, and I already sketched out like a very rough outline of the painting with a light green watercolor, just so that I kind of know like where I want to paint and it's a little bit easier. It's like cats, a bookshelf, and you know, it's just really cozy. That's just the kind of art that I love to make. So let's get to painting. I thought that I would start with telling you a little bit about my background. I have been a creative and an artist for most of my life. I was literally painting and started going to art classes since the age of 3, and I also am very privileged to be able to do so. I was just always an artist, and when I was little, whenever anyone asked me what I wanted to be, oh, I dropped my brush. The answer was always, oh, I'm gonna be an artist. You know, when high school came around and it was time to think about having a real or a proper career, art was never really part of that. And I do acknowledge, I think it has to do with my upbringing, and my parents are immigrants, right? So they worked so hard to get a stable life that pays stable money and have this like financial freedom. And I think the trope of the starving artist is very much in their minds. And so that was like never really an option for me to pursue art. Once we started thinking about, you know, figuring out a major to pick for college or what to study, art school was never even an option to me, even though we all knew that I was really good at it, including my parents. And so, yeah, I ended up going to business school, and then I just kind of let that creative part of me die. But after business school, I ended up working for big tech, and then also was not really having the best time. And I ended up getting laid off, pursued nail art for a little bit. That didn't work out for me. And now here I am trying to figure out what to do next. And I think I finally am trying to figure out and prioritize the creative part of myself. I've been spending the past couple of months now just trying to understand and reconnect with that creative part of myself. And it's definitely been a journey. It's actually been super emotional, and I don't know if I was expecting how emotional it was really gonna be, but it is. And I've already learned a lot of things along the way that I want to share with you, and hopefully it will help you on your journey as well. The first thing that I've noticed is that your schedule is going to look really different from your classic like 9 to 5 schedule. And I think I'm someone who really struggles with feeling like unproductive, even if I am productive, and I subscribe to a lot of like, oh, in order to be productive, your schedule needs to look like this. And it's not helpful, you know, especially because we live in a world where there's so many things on the internet where it's like, this is my productive 5 a.m. morning routine or whatever. And if you're a morning person and you have a productive 5 a.m. morning routine, I'm happy for you. It is not me. I'm not a morning person. I've never been, and I don't think I ever will. And I'm learning that that's okay. And just because you're a morning person doesn't automatically make you better than anyone else. And so I'm realizing for me, for example, my personal creativity comes in like 2 waves. It comes around like 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and then it comes later in the evening, like after dinner, maybe 7 to 9 p.m. I was like, why am I fighting it, right? Like, shouldn't I just lean into it instead of fighting it and putting myself down for not having a routine that looks the same as everyone else's, right? And I think that if your creativity hits at night, for example, then you should lean into that. If your creativity hits in the morning, you should also lean into that. And I'm still trying to not beat myself up for having a schedule that changes every day or doesn't look like, you know, everyone else's. But I think releasing that mindset a little bit and realizing that your progress and your productivity is going to look really different from other people's has already been really helpful in my journey of like being more at peace with myself and letting my creative self be at peace with me as well. Okay, I wanted to show you guys my progress so far. I have 2 pieces of paper taped on here. Ignore this one because I'm going to paint it later. But yeah, I really love like homey, cozy paintings and anything that makes me feel like I'm wrapped up under a warm blanket and it's just like so cozy, you know. So yeah, that's the vibe that I'm always migrating towards. And I also always love a dusk or like an evening window scene. And so my sky scenes, if they are in my paintings, always tend to be like purpley or have blue and pinks in them. So yeah, but I'm really excited. I am probably gonna go in later with colored pencil and like add in some details as well, but this is the progress so far. The second thing that I've learned that's really important is to give weight, importance, and attention to your ideas. I think a lot of us aren't used to doing this. We all have ideas like all the time. I don't know, they come to me all the time when I'm driving or like sitting in traffic. Yeah, I just feel like it's really important to give your ideas weight, because if you're like a suppressed creative like me, you probably spent a lot of time having ideas and then telling them like, no, that's not a good idea. Like, who's gonna watch that, or who's gonna listen to that, or who's gonna buy that? You know, whatever your doubtful question is. So I think it's gonna be a really big mindset shift when you start giving your ideas weight. And how we're gonna give these ideas weight is we are going to write them down. People probably tell you this all the time, but it's actually really important because we have a lot of ideas that come and go, and you might have thought about this brilliant idea while you're driving or while you're on a walk, but then if you don't write it down, when you're feeling creatively blocked, there's gonna be this like, oh my gosh, I wish I wrote that idea down because I've forgotten it completely and it's now gone forever. And so writing it down is going to make sure you have like a really nice bank of ideas or creativity, like state of mind that you can draw from when you are feeling like maybe a little less energetic or just, you know, ready to sit down and be productive, but your mind is blank. And so I like to write my ideas down in 2 ways. I like to have a pen and paper, and so I keep this journal at my desk, especially when I'm at home. So if I'm like cooking or eating or, you know, doing whatever, and I all of a sudden have this idea, I'll go run to my desk and grab that journal and then write it down. And that way I can come back to it later. Another way that I write my ideas down, and this is really nice for when you're on the go, I just have this note, like on the notes app on my iPhone, where I just write down any ideas. So if I'm driving or I'm walking or at the grocery store, I don't know, like wherever, I can just whip out my phone and write down the idea that I have whenever it hits me, and then I can transfer it onto paper later and decide if I want to flush it out. I recommend that you do that as well, because it's going to be really helpful to like give that part of yourself weight, you know? And I think like ideas and feelings are totally intertwined. By brushing off your own ideas, you're also telling yourself that you're not good enough to be paid attention to. And I feel like that mindset is really harmful, especially to your creative self. So we gotta stop it. We gotta write them down and give these ideas weight and like tell ourselves that we are important, we are special, and we can be like the creative we wanna be. Another thing is, if you're not used to ideating, it might feel like really unproductive and very silly to you in the beginning. It definitely kind of felt that way for me, because I'm used to being productive almost for the sake of productivity. Like, I have this worker bee mindset where it's like, I need to be constantly grinding. It doesn't really matter what I'm putting out, but like, I just need to put out something and that will make me feel productive, even if this something is like not conducive to my work, who I want to be, or even helpful at all. It just like this need for constant productive noise. And so I'm trying to bust out of that mindset. It is hard, but with that, that means that when I start ideating, I feel like I have achieved nothing. I'm just writing down a bunch of ideas on paper. They're not anything yet. They're not tangible. They're not actively making me money. They're not turning themselves into something crazy. Like, they're just sitting there. And so it makes me feel really unproductive, but I am trying my best to tell myself like that's not true. And every idea is a baby step for something bigger, right? Like without the idea, you're never going to be able to do anything. So try and tell yourself that if you're feeling like, oh, ideation isn't productive, because it's definitely really important. And I don't want us to like continue discounting the fact that ideation is like a big part of our productivity and our creative flow later on. The third thing that I'm really learning is that it is really important to make low effort art or create low effort things and make sure to take care of yourself and your creative brain too. And when I say low effort art, I mean something that just doesn't take a bunch of brain power or feel really overwhelming to make, because especially if you haven't painted in a while or like created in a while, whatever it is, I'm just gonna use painted as my example. But if I haven't in a while and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pick up this paintbrush and I'm gonna make this painting and it's gonna be beautiful and huge and I'm gonna hang up the final product on my wall and blah, blah, blah. Like it feels really scary and unapproachable. And so oftentimes what happens is I end up just not picking up the paintbrush at all. And then because I'm like just too overwhelmed, and then I just don't get it done. Or I put so much pressure on myself to make a beautiful painting, and then if the painting doesn't turn out exactly what I envisioned, I trash it or I get really frustrated, and then I'm like basically hurting my creative self again, because I'm like, you're not good enough like everyone tells you to. You can't make this painting, blah, 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 right? Like all this really harmful narrative. And so I think low effort art really helps mitigate that, because it's just something that's like, I don't know, you can pick up a sketchbook and you just draw a bunch of squiggles, or like you play around with a bunch of colors. It doesn't have to go on a wall. It's not for a friend. There's no motive but to just like put something on the paper. And I feel like, oh, and size-wise, I usually make it kind of small. And so that's really helpful, because then it's like a bite-sized chunk of creativity, especially when you're feeling blocked. My most recent example of low effort art is I have this watercolor sketchbook, and I'll show you guys. And I've been filming like a painting until I find myself series where not every day, but like as often as I can, I just do these like small paintings that take me about like an hour to an hour and a half each, and then I just film it and then post it. So that way it's like not taking an insane amount of mind power for me to make these paintings, because they're just like inspired by something random I've seen during the day or I've seen on the internet. Like this one, for example, it's just a bunch of squiggles, and it was like super fun to do, and just like tickled my brain in the right way. And my low effort art has been helpful because I'm still getting into the practice and getting used to like filming and editing content and doing all those things. And so by doing little bite-sized pieces of art, as well as like juggling my content creator brain and nurturing that, like it's become a lot more approachable than starting off immediately and being like, I have to make this perfect paint with me vlog or this beautiful YouTube video, this is a lot easier to start. Which, if you are interested, I do have them all posted up as YouTube shorts, so feel free to check that out as well. I do also want to take a note on consistency. Everyone says consistency is important in everything you do, and that is true, but you don't have to paint every single day and like post every single day at 7 p.m. or whatever. Like consistency, I think, is a lot healthier when you think about it in like longer cycles, like monthly or quarterly, because we're only human, and that means things change for us all the time, right? It's not sustainable when you don't take into account like what you might be going through or experiencing, and like put that heavy expectation on yourself to like consistently put out the same thing every single day. So when you think about consistency in a broader time scheme, it's more sustainable and more approachable, and that kind of mindset, especially for your creative self, is helping as well. And as I'm getting closer to my creative self and trying to like be more creative and feed more energy into that side of myself, it's also super important to prioritize taking breaks. And that means both creative breaks and treating your body with kindness and care. And you might be wondering, like, what do I mean by creative breaks, right? And I mean giving yourself time to recharge creatively, and that might look like having other creative hobbies that you pour into when you feel a little bit burnt out from one, right? So for me, I have a lot of different hobbies. I love gardening, I love cooking, and I think cooking's super creative. It's also a bonus points that when you cook well, you eat well. But yeah, cooking's super creative to me. I like sewing, interior design, beauty, fashion, those kinds of self-expression as well. And so right now, my biggest creative outlet is painting, right? If you couldn't tell. But I'm sure enough, and I haven't felt it yet, but I felt it before, like I'm going to feel like, oh, I'm so stuck with painting, like I just don't know what to paint next, blah, blah, blah. And when that hits, I like to go through what I call my hobby Rolodex, and just pick something else and nurture that to give my like painting side a break, right? And I think it's really important as a creative to have multiple channels of creativity, and this is where it really comes in handy. So yeah, that's what I mean by creative breaks. Like, don't try and push yourself all the time. You're just gonna burn yourself out. This is what we have so far. I added a pretty yellow glow to these lamps, and yes, these are my two cats that I'm gonna add in as well. But I think I'm gonna take a break for now, and I'll post this when it's all finished. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful, and I wish you the best on your creative journey. Let me know in the comments if there's any other things you want me to talk about, or if you would like to see more videos on what kind of topics you would want me to explore. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.